Alright, so in the last video we went over making variables, and now I'm going to go over something that you will use a lot when you're coding, and that is the if statement. So I'm going to create a C# script here and call this if statement, and we can get coding. So the syntax for the if statement is very easy. It's just the thing is you need a bool to actually use it properly, or something that will return a bool. So just to test, we're going to use a public variable of bool. So public bool, and I can call this my bool. And to make an if statement, what you do is just put if and then two regular parentheses and then curly brackets after that. And inside of these parentheses, you put in something that is either a bool or something that returns a bool. In our case, we have a bool variable called my bool, so we can just plug this in here. And once you put it in, it automatically checks if my bool is true, since that is the default here. And if you want to check if my bool is set to false, you simply put an exclamation point behind it. So now, whenever it finds that my bool is true, we can just have it debug.log true, and then if it isn't, then false. So to check for any other condition, you just do else. So here, the if automatically it checks if our my bool variable is set to true, or any condition we're looking for, like for example if a certain variable is equal to 1 or 2. And if it doesn't meet this condition, then it's going to go over to the else statement, which means if this condition isn't met, then it will run the code beneath it. But you can also put an if after this to make it to where if this condition isn't met, then it will look for another condition. So if my bool is equal to true, then we can just do else if my bool is equal to false, or just put an exclamation point behind. Well, we don't really need to put this in since our my bool variable can really only be true or false. So if I go back into Unity and I attach the if statement class to my example game object and I hit play, since the my bool variable is set to false, you'll see that it says false, and in the code you can see here the if checks if it's true or not. If it is true, then it will debug.log true. If it is not, then false. So it says false, and if I just change this to true, or just tick the my bool variable and I hit play, you'll notice that it says true now. Alright, so that is the basic use of an if statement. It normally uses a bool, but now let's go over something that returns a bool. Here I can have a public int, and I can call this my int as an example. And what we're going to want to do is check if our int is equal to a certain number. So we do if my int, and to check if something is equivalent to something, in an if statement we just do my int double equal sign, and let's say 1. So if my int is 1, then we just debug.log and say my int is set to 1, and I set my int to 1. You'll see in the console, it'll say my int is set to 1. Now let's say we want to check if our int here is less than 1. So to do that, what we do is replace our two equal signs with a simple less than sign. And we can change our debug.log to my int is lower than 1. Go back into Unity, and I set the my int variable to 0. I hit play. I check the console, my int is lower than 1. But let's say now I want to see if my int is greater than 1, so I just replace it with a greater sign, and then I say my int is higher than 1, and then I go back to Unity, have it already set to 2 here, hit play, go to the console, my int is higher than 1. Now let's say you want to see if our my int variable is equal to but is less than or greater than. So to do that, all you really do is on top of your less than or greater than symbol, you just put an equal sign after. So it checks if your variable is equivalent to or greater than or less than. So if I say my int is greater than or equal to 1, then I can say my int is higher than or equal to 1. So I go back to Unity and I set my int to 1. I hit play. You'll see in the console it says my int is higher than or equal to 1. And if I set it to 2 and I hit play again, you'll see my int is higher than or equal to 1 also, because we're checking if it is greater than or equal to. And same thing applies for less than or equal to. So this is really all I have for this tutorial. In the next video, I'm going to go over loops, which is a little more complex compared to this, as there is much more to loops than just the regular if statement. But until then, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.